You may know I've been to the country of Trinidad back in 2002 with my dad. I was on a mission trip there with my dad, and I love Trinidad. Some of the friendliest people on the planet. I love that place. So one of my favorite shows, Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, and season 9 and 10 just got released on Netflix, so I got to see the one on Trinidad. And he was visiting a musician there in Trinidad, and something he said, I love it. You know how I made a video a couple weeks ago talking about how is it implied that people who are poor, who have lower income, therefore have lower morals because they're the ones who end up in prison? Obviously that's not true, because people who make money can also be horrible people. Maybe they're just not breaking the law in the same way that people with less money break the law, right? It's implied that if you have less money, you have less morals. It's implied, and it's not true. So anyway, they had this conversation about that. It was fascinating. I was just saying this in my YouTube video, and now they're talking about it, right? So the musician that Anthony Bourdain had interviewed, he said this. He said, I definitely do not believe that poverty is what causes crime. He says what causes crime is excluding people. Man, I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. I thought, as soon as I watched that, I got to do a video about that now too. It totally makes sense. We want to believe that, or no, whether we want to believe it or not, we tend to believe as a collective society that people with less money have lower morals. But what he was saying is that the more of a difference between the rich people and the poor people, it's only going to reinforce who's getting excluded. When there's more of a middle class, there's less separation, and therefore more people are included. So it is interesting too. It's just when you think about, that's ultimately what it comes down to. When people are left out and not included, especially maybe because they don't have as much physically, they don't have barely enough clothes or barely enough food, and they're not taken care of, it's going to lead to, no one cares about me, I'm not included. When you're part of a community, it's different. And I'll give an example, and I didn't even think about this till just now, but I made a pretty popular video on my channel pointing out the fact that, at least here in Nashville, there are a lot of homeless people, but you never, and I've lived here, 12, 13 years, I've never seen a homeless person who was Mexican, ever. I've never seen, and so I made a video. Why is that? Why are there no homeless Mexican people? And ultimately the answer is this, and when I say Mexican, I mean whether they were born in Mexico or whether they're Mexican American. Either way, they're of Mexican heritage, and that's what I mean when I say that. You never see homeless Mexican people, especially not here in Nashville where we have so many homeless people. Why is that? And people have commented and reinforced what I had already suspected, and that is that ultimately there is such community with Mexican people that they take care of their own, that more people will live in the same house, and it may not be that big of a house, they may all share the same car, whatever. They're taking care of each other as part of their identity as a culture in ways that others not so much. So there's less people being excluded, and that makes sense how that works. Just going back to the concept of the more you exclude people, the more that's going to lead to despair and crime. You know, whether it's excluding someone because of their race or ethnicity, or even because they're gay or bisexual, or whatever it is, when you start excluding people, it starts causing this to happen. And we have that definitely in America with the two very polarized sides that we've got going on, the Republicans and the Democrats, and people size each other up and demonize each other, thinking that the other side is immoral, thinking that the other side are truly the idiots. They're excluding each other. And I just think that's such a fascinating, brilliant point, that obviously poverty is not the cause of crime, of what causes people to go into crime. Excluding them, being indifferent toward them, whether you're actually excluding them or whether you're just turning a blind eye to what's going on. And I made a video recently about the prison systems in America, that most people in prison are minority status. And it's a system set up to make profit off of people, fill in those prisons, and then they get out of prison, and then what future they have? Who wants to hire a felon? He doesn't have money. There's all these things that are set up to further exclude people. So I want to know what you have to say about this right here in the comment section.